every Sunday.
But we have loads of content here. Now, just very quickly, 2 or 3 sentences. Obviously, the Iran-Israeli situation is quite extraordinary, and the way it's being reported today is quite extraordinary. Mark did a brilliant live on it last night, so please check that out. I'm going to be doing something on my Instagram later. I'm disgusted and horrified yet again by the way the Western media are portraying this and selling this to everybody. So that's parked. That will all be coming. Please check out Mark's live. He did a great one last night. So for now, let's just have a little peruse through what Mr. Schofield was up to last night.
So this was episode 2.
So from a programme maker's opinion, Mark.
Well, I mean, I felt from a programme maker's opinion, I thought, programme 1, I was really fearful going into programme 2 because I thought programme 1, really fearful. A, I thought, where's this hour going to go? And B, I just thought, are we just going to get more of the same? How are they going to ratchet this up? And it's a little bit like the first album and then the second. I thought, are we going to just watch this Muppet?
But it was very boring.
Wandering around. The first episode was so boring, and the most exciting moment was his engagement with the crab in that episode. And anyway, so I went into this hesitant. I went into it fearful. I went into it a little bit depressed, actually. Yeah. And in a way, every one of those fears was confirmed. But I found it surprisingly, and you're going to be shocked by this, much more engaging than episode 1 for all the wrong reasons.
Well, much more engaging for all the wrong reasons for him. Because I was hoping for him, because I do think people can be given another chance. Everybody makes mistakes. I don't happen to think this was just a mistake, what he did. I think it was much worse than a mistake. But I think that everyone should be given a chance. This is his 3rd time he's told his story. And I think that it's massively ill-advised as I watch it. For me, I was open-jawed at the way that he stumbled every time he went near to saying anything he'd done wrong. He was looking for some sort of, our children were screaming at the end, just say you messed everything up for everybody, that what you did was despicable, and that you want to completely take ownership of that. But
unequivocally.
you just didn't say that. It felt, and it went a bit like pantomime.
Well, hang on. Yeah. Let's get to that. Look, there's a number of people who are saying, be kind about his mental health.
Hang on.
Let me just, I just want to quickly just say something on that. We have talked about more serious matters. Israel and Iran last night live is there, and obviously we'll be touching upon that again. This is a simply stated
a TV
review. On the note of his mental health, I can guarantee you, Channel 5 will have put psychologists and therapists all over this like a rash. They will have had to have done a deeply intense assessment of his strength and capacity to cope with being on a stranded island and to have this kind of level of exposure.
Because he's been in the business for a very long time, and you absolutely know that if you are going to come in for the first time after such a big story, where you're telling your story, 100%, and he says it all the way through, everybody's going to say this, everybody's going to say that. So you have to know that you're going to be reviewed. The program is going to be reviewed. We review many TV programs, and it's one that we would definitely have done, whoever it was.
And we also covered the Schofield story in great detail
here on Coffee Moaning. So he is absolutely aware that, So it's.
So I think we can park that to the side.
Let's just park
it's
that.
fair game, and no one's going to be suggesting anything horrible about what he should do or shouldn't do. But we're going to look at what was presented to us. Now, I said I was worried because episode 1 was boring. I thought, boring, and then we had a prolonged sequence of him making a fishing float. And I thought, oh my Christ, God Almighty, this is so tedious, watching PHILLIP Schofield construct a float out of a bottle. And I know what he's trying to show us here. He's trying to show us that he's a self-sufficient, he can survive, essentially, he can light fires. He's got the kind of nuts and bolts of rebuilding a life, literally, from the ground up. That's what the metaphor here is.
But, at the end of the day, whatever PHILLIP Schofield is on, whatever anybody thinks about PHILLIP Schofield, it's an hour of television. Right?
3 hours.
And many times you said, I don't give a damn what anybody thinks of this. I don't care what anybody...
Well, then don't tell us it.
But actually, that is an audience. And you do have to think about what is entertaining or interesting or engaging for an audience. That's a program. That's, you know, he said, I'm a professional, I'm a program maker.
Whoa, the worst. Well, let's get to the worst line in the show. I mean, hang on a minute. What made this film, what made this documentary infinitely more interesting than the first one was, I think as the Times said it this morning, was seeing or feeling the canyon of difference between what he thought, how he thought he was coming across.
This is what they said in the Times.
Yeah, and how he actually was coming across. Someone just used the phrase, a classic pick me.
Yes.
This, if you want to understand what youngsters, Gen Zers, mean when they say a pick me boy or a pick me girl, refer to this documentary, because this is a man who I think, unfortunately,
self-pity. That's what pick me
it's
means.
pour me drink. And really, I think most of the kind of newspaper headlines that have been threaded throughout the press in the last week came from this episode. Because in this, we had we had the thrown under a bus, we had the 3 ships, we had the put a camera and lights on me, and who knows what I'm going to say.
I mean, I really didn't like that. I mean, I
was
think
so
the thing
threatening.
is, I've said this each time and I'll say it again. I don't know Holly, I don't know Phil. Just because I work, well, he doesn't work in ITV obviously anymore. Just because I work in the same building, I don't know them. What I know is that nobody has said anything. You know, I mean, Holly hasn't said a thing out loud. You know, none of these people have said anything. And he's veiled threats. Oh, let me just put another log on the fire. I haven't finished. I felt he was doing all of that to make people feel nervous. And I think, why would you do that? If you're wanting to sit here and say that that you want another chance, and mind you, to be fair, he's never said that he wants to apologise, or he hasn't actually couched it in that way when I come to think of it. See, I'm assuming that this it's only just hit me this. I suppose I'm assuming that he's telling his story
As an apology.
as an apology.
Oh, no, I never thought that.
You see, I did. See, I'm such an idiot. I've only just realised it's not.
You actually thought this was part of him saying sorry?
Yeah, and saying, listen, I've made huge mistakes. Not, I did something that wasn't quite right. It was a bit misjudged. I've made huge mistakes.
I think if he'd gone that route,
and I am talking and I am working on, you know, questioning myself. And I thought it was going to be that. You know, I lied to my colleagues.
I
genuinely,
I get it.
Because if he wants a career again,
well, he says he doesn't.
Well, then why are you on telly?
Well, I know, but it's interesting that you should say that. So you've come into this assuming, like I think most normal people would assume, which is this is an incredibly elaborate, perhaps misguided way of apologising. But I tell you,
exactly.
He has never said he was wrong.
But just said he was unwise.
Yeah, and the reason this is totally equivalent to the Prince Andrew is Prince Andrew didn't do that interview to say sorry to anyone or apologise or say that it was misguided. Yes. I mean, he was pushed towards having to get there once, you know, Epstein it was completely revealed his connection and everything. But interestingly, the problem with this is total hubris. Prince Andrew came out to not even rehabilitate. He wanted to stake and explain and self-justify and tell what his truth was, because his truth was the truth. And what I watch this, my jaw gets wider and wider and nearer to the floor the longer I watch this, as I realise he's getting nowhere near that place. Saying,
this
you know
is
what?
What's
an idiot?
I felt like he was, well, not even an idiot. It's like, it's not right. It said, I made terrible judgments. I made terrible choices, and I lied to all my colleagues and many of my friends and to my family, and I lied to them, and I really am digging deep and finding out what led me to that. I would be like, wow, okay. But actually, what I felt yesterday, it was about veiled threats. It was about trying to make everyone discuss, who is it? Who's he talking about? Who's the this person? Who's the brand obsessed person? Who's the this person? Who's the liar? Who's the one that's nothing like what you see? I just found that really, really unsavoury.
Right. I'd go a little bit further. I actually saw in this episode, and maybe I had a heightened awareness, because it's not called a gaydar, but it's called a sort of presentadar. I had many moments in this where I saw the truth and the actual presenter that I know some people feel they've come up against in Phil. There were moments in this where he wasn't able to hide not only the bitterness, but a really sort of egotistical, narcissistic, tempestuous, foot-stamping selfishness. And I'll tell you where I saw it. It mostly happened around the fire. So when he had his indignancy around the fish, when I've eaten my fish, he constructed a scenario there where he'd made himself annoyed with us for watching him
eat his fish.
We
were doing him a favour.
But baked, no pun intended, but baked into his attitude towards this fish and his indignancy that he had to go and eat his fish. He had to eat his fish. Baked into that is everything he feels about this crisis. He has done nothing wrong. It's all about what's been done to him. He has made no mistakes. It's all about how the press and everyone else has treated him and responded to him.
Now, either he was lying when he said he lied to everyone about it.
Yeah.
Or he wasn't. Because it seems to me like he's inferring people knew.
It feels like he's clambering back from what he's actually admitted to and what he's actually said. This could prove pretty tricky for him. A couple of other points that I think were particularly unpalatable.
I don't think he should have mentioned. I nearly said his name. I don't think he should have mentioned it. I think that was just disgraceful. The boy in question.
Oh, right.
He didn't say his name, but he shouldn't have brought him up. He's had enough. He's had enough of having his life turned upside down. But just leave him out of it.
But didn't this episode get frighteningly close to him breaching whatever NDA?
Well, we don't know what the NDA is, do we?
No, I know,
we don't know what it
but
says.
it feels like it was a mutually agreed, neither one can talk about the relationship. I felt we got a bit of relationship in this. What about his talk about age difference, gay community? I didn't buy into at all, you said it after the first episode, this absolutely specious argument that somehow in this industry being gay is frowned upon more than being straight.
Maybe
if this was
in many
a young
other
girl.
industries, but it's not in showbiz. Come on.
And I thought, so we got that quote. We did talk about it in the first episode. Now, for me, when he talked about how if it had been a girl, he'd have been patted on the back, that speaks to the kind of masculine... No.
I really take umbrage with that because I'm part of that business and he would not be patted on the back.
No, I
if
agree.
He'd met a girl when she was at drama, at 12 years old or whatever it is, we've never got the actual age, have we? But at a drama club, and then he's snogging her in the dressing room at 18. I would not go,
No, I tell you exactly, it's like that admission, or the accusation was an admission. That's how he would have been. And what he revealed again there, like he revealed over his indignancy around his fucking fish, and the next one, what he revealed there was what he actually would have said, how he actually treats these things. He doesn't think he's done anything.
I think I must have come in I must have zoned out because when I came
zoned
back,
out a lot.
at one point he was talking about Holland.
Hang on. That was right at the end. That is an absolute...
What was that?
That was, he had climbed Mount Narcissist. There was a moment in this where he talked about the mountain looking at him. That's how narcissistic it was.
Oh my God.
Look at the mountain
I know many
looking at me.
TV presenters and actors like that.
Can I just say to you, Philip, and most other TV presenters, the
looking at
landscape is not looking at you, all right?
No, but to be fair, it was that's, you can, yeah.
Anyway,
But what was Holland? What was the connection?
Well, the Holland poem, which came at the end of a
it was a
very
poem.
boring climb, was a poem that was given...
That's when I zoned out, when he was climbing.
Yeah, he was given a poem by his therapist in his recovery, and he was talking about, it was about travelling to Italy, but actually you end up in Holland. The Times, in its review, has said...
Mount Narcissist.
Mount Narcissist, yeah. Exactly. He's climbed Mount Me. That's what he climbed. He climbed himself. He mounted himself. That's literally what he did.
Let's take a little swim in Lake Me.
Let's climb up Mount Me.
Let's cool off in Lake Me after climbing Mount Me.
I mean, and anyway, but this poem, which apparently the Times says was originally written for being a parent of a child with special needs, i.e. you aim for one thing as a parent, you end up receiving and living something else. This got very confusing for Philip, I could see, because he said, I can't remember it ad verbatim, so I'm going to give you a précis. So basically, he then told us a story of going to Venice in the poem, but didn't go to Venice, ended up in Holland. And then I felt like saying to him, but you're neither in Venice nor Holland. And then he turned around to show the beauty and said, here's Holland. I was like, you're in Madagascar. This is getting you very confused, Philip. You need some GPS, you need some of your tech, and you need a drone. So he invoked this poem to kind of say that basically his life should have been Shangri-La.
I just saw him at the end, like hanging one arm off a tree, looking into the distance. Thought, oh blimey, he's going to get his multicoloured Technicolor coat out in a minute.
There was a moment, wasn't there?
I thought it's the Technicolor coat.
I expected Jason Donovan to emerge from the bushes, or a bush, and do a duet of some form with him. But here's the thing. There was a moment where, and I'm not laughing at him crying, but the problem here is this. It's very hard to cry honestly and hold a camera perfectly
Well,
still,
this is
filming
exactly
yourself.
what I said.
I'm sorry,
This
it
is
just
exactly
is.
what I said, isn't
It
it? I
normally
said
goes down.
he's holding his own shot on his own tears.
And he was perfectly in focus as well.
God.
Now, that's not to say that he can't have got upset, but Cam Hayes, you said a moment ago, and I said this about the first episode, the fundamental flaw with this is none of it is examining anything because there's no one else there to ask any uncomfortable questions. And also, even when he gets back to the edit suite, let's assume that we can trust he was on his own with the kit. If he had his biggest breakdown, he just might not turn the fucking camera on. So no one will fucking see it anyway. So we're getting a purely edited version.
No, but I think that is so telling in itself. If this is an edited version of the stuff that he thought was okay.
This was
This stuff was not okay. I will stick up for people at ITV not knowing that, you know, a lot just on plain bare facts.
Yeah.
Don't just sit there blaming everybody else.
It was astonishing the ability with which.
Nothing was to do with him. Everything was everyone else's fault.
But let's indulge. Let's go a little bit lighter on this. Admittedly, it's not. It shouldn't be light. But the cringe factor in this episode was high, and it was.
Did your right armpit sweat?
Not only my right, but my left, and
Oh
even
God, that's unusual. Usually when Mark cringes, only one armpit.
Yeah, no, it caught my left as well. So anyway, what about the sequence at the beginning of part 2 where he talked about his love of the smell of TV studios?
Oh my God, that was another point where I thought the coat was coming out.
Of Wood Lane. He talked about now. The terrible thing about all of that for me was as soon as I saw a shot of TV Centre, Nadia works in that new building. I've worked at TV Centre over the years for years.
The old one I like.
Yeah, the old one. But I hate to say it, guys. Even when I used to go to the TV Centre back then,
it smells horrible.
Not only does it smell horrible, but it also has horrible connotations. As he was talking about Wood Lane, I thought this is the worst possible little kind of
talk about
root off into kind of nostalgia. So the smell of studios. He wanted to talk about how it was there from a young age. It had been baked into him.
And then he just went, and they chuck it all away.
Oh, don't.
I was like, oh my God, we've gone into Fagin now. There was lots of different.
Maddie said, Maddie was making herself a sandwich
Maddie
for Pat
was
lunch.
so funny,
she was
our eldest.
fucking brilliant.
But she doesn't know anything about it. She's just looking at it like, who's this bloke? What's he going on about?
And there was a point when he was round the fire, and she said, Jesus Christ, she said, Dad, this is the classic villain arc developing. It was a villain arc. He was becoming madder and bitterer.
What's a villain arc?
The narrative arc of a character arc of a villain, where you kind of start low key.
Oh yeah.
And suddenly you reveal, oh my God, he's a villain. And his comment, this is the bit that for me was the highlight of the show. And you've got to go back. Someone has to meme this. His comment about the lighting from the fire, and he said, "I've just got to go now. I'm conscious of the lighting because I'm a professional."
Yeah, none of it was good. None of it was good. And as I said before, if he'd come on, if this was like to say, can I have another chance? There was a chance for that because
it's his origin story.
It's an origin story from a superhero.
Villain.
But the thing is like I said at the beginning of this, and like I've said a lot, if he'd come and really looked at what he'd done and where he was culpable, the British public are a very forgiving public, actually.
Absolutely agree.
They really are. And I'm a soppy git as well. I can my kids always go, oh, Mum, do we always have to hear what could be the other side of the story? I do think what he did was wrong. I've said that many times before. I think it was an abuse of power. But if he had completely looked at himself and investigated himself and said, you know, I'm doing this, I'm talking with a therapist, I'm looking at myself, I'm blah, 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 I think we all would have gone, okay, come on then, give him a quiz show.
Yeah.
Wouldn't we?
Yeah.
I still say what he should have done was just gone to a quiz show. I don't think he should have done another explaining of the story.
At the point that he said, I'm conscious of the light and I'm a professional, me and Maddie thought he's going to set the fucking island on fire. We genuinely thought this is going to turn into Lord of the Flies. He's going to end up throwing himself off a cliff. He's going to eat himself. He's going to do all sorts of things a la Lord of the Flies. He's going to turn into a tribe and start to attack himself.
Jokingly, of course.
He did talk about...
to watch everything he's saying.
No, he did did talk about what he did being unwise and not sensible. He then asked, "Is it enough to destroy people?" He absolutely took a targeted hit at someone about brand awareness, brands, and all that kind of stuff. Brand ambition was so. The press are talking about this was a clear swipe.
I haven't seen any of the press today. What is the?
Everyone is absolutely horrified and bemused and just see it as a kind of total kind of narcissistic, self-indulgent miscalculation of epic proportions. He other little cringe moments in there. His guilt around the crab. I mean, come on, I couldn't deal with his crab guilt. At the moment he kissed the stone.
Thank you so much, Faith. Why does he not care about the young man and the effect these 3 hours are doing to him personally?
Yeah.
Thank you. Exactly.
And the moment
he probably, if the NDAs are true, that there are NDAs, he probably thought that this is now going to be left and he can live in peace and not have the press coming after him and his family and everyone that's ever known him and all the photos coming back and everything. Exactly. That is who is in my mind throughout. Because I don't see many people asking about his mental health and how he's coping. And, and that should be at the forefront because PHILLIP has brought it up again. He's talking about it. So everyone should be also saying, well, what about that person? How is that person? How is that person's mental health? How are they doing?
I don't know if Reese is in the room, but Maddie also said this is definitely like his Kendrick Lamar's diss track, isn't it? Against everyone at ITV. He's thrown out his diss track. He's trying to kind of get his kind of narrative out there. This is what the Times said. I
kept fast forwarding, says Shannon Woods.
In a schmaltzy section of this episode, this is the Times, he quotes from a poem, Welcome to Holland. Actually, the poem is about the experience of raising a child with special needs. Schofield has repurposed it as a self-help guide for disgraced TV presenters. Pure narcissism.
And can you imagine if you know that poem and hold that poem close to your heart because it's been given to you because you have a child with additional needs. So that's a terrible misjudgment again.
Here's my final analysis on it for me, and I don't know if you agree. I think, I find mental health really fascinating, and I find fantasists fascinating. Because there is a point, certainly with narcissists, where everyone around the narcissist or around someone who's got an inflated sense of self.
Let's say
an inflated sense of self. Everyone thinks they must have a sense of how sort of damaged their perception is, or how blinkered their perception is, or how can they really think this of themselves? I.e., they must be making a choice to be this or be that. And I think what his problem is, and this isn't really his fault, I think Philip Schofield's problem, and I said it last night, is he's been marinated, literally, and we got a sense of for how many years he has. He's been marinated in showbiz to such an extent that I genuinely think, watching this, looking at him in extraordinary close-up as we have to, I thought, it feels like he's spinning a yarn and lying. I think this is him feeling he's being as truthful as he can be. Because I actually think he's so trapped in the showbiz chat and self-deceit.
I think he'll be happy with the programme. He'll have watched it. Sorry, somebody just said, are we talking about... This is only a review today. It's a special coffee moaning, just a review, because we couldn't do the review last night and so many people have been asking us to review it.
Does anyone agree? I mean, I think literally, if you think how long his career's been, if you think again, and what happens, and this is really important to say, what's so refreshing about you, Nat, actually, and many other, obviously, presenters, are those who aren't don't become immune to the privilege, not necessarily in life, but the privilege in a production or in a team, if you are so sort of cosseted and looked after and put on a pedestal, it's not always actually the person's fault that they end up having quite a warped sense of themselves and the world. And I feel at times in this that he could only be making such stratospheric gaffes and have such stratospheric lack of self-awareness that he must, on some level,
and I think that's it. I mean, a lot of the papers are using the word narcissist or narcissistic.
The Times has used it.
Narcissistic. But I mean, I think, nobody can diagnose anybody else. But I think what that is often in showbiz is, like Mark says, people just get a bit of a lost sense of what is actually real, because so many people just fawn and just go, oh wow, everything you say is amazing.
Anyway, so final episode is out tonight, obviously. It'll be interesting to see if the mic drop is the mic drop.
And we will be reviewing that as we review many other programmes. So if this was your first time to the channel, Coffee Moaning is usually more news and what's going on with with you or with us. So it is an unusual one. We will actually review it probably live tonight, won't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, please check out Mark's live video on the Iran-Israel situation yesterday. Hold on to your hats, look around, get your news from all sorts of places,
Well,
and not just
yeah.
from, like the recent statement from Keir Starmer, which my blood is still boiling.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will. We'll see you later on today.